Hello, you're very welcome to the fifth and final day. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon as we've headed to the western part of Switzerland, to the French-speaking part, and to Villars-sur-Olon for a final mountain push. It's the Queen stage. It's the most demanding stage with over 4,000 meters of elevation, 150 and a bit kilometers, as you can see. We have got the really demanding climb of the Côte de la Croix on several occasions today. 2 halves of it and then 2 full helpings. It all adds up to a really grippy encounter today, and it's going to be interesting to see if Tadej Pogacar can hang on to his race lead, or can he perhaps even extend it. He's come to Villars-sur-Olon, as indeed have we, for another helping of great Tour de Suisse race action. It's been here in recent years as well, this beautiful town. It's very much a ski resort. Small historic town. We're in the canton of close to the western border with France. Always snowy, is it? It's very, very sunny and warm, as indeed it was yesterday, for a sensational time trial. Honestly, one of the closest in history. On our screens at the conclusion, Tadej Pogacar had got there by the scant margin of 0.31 seconds. I can tell you the timekeepers here, the TISO timekeepers, they revised it and had a look at it again. 0.04 of a second was the amount of time he had in hand to make that young person's day. Slovenian fans, Swiss fans, all joined in celebration of his second stage success, a 9th career time trial victory for Tadej Pogacar, and a broad beaming smile for the yellow jersey holder as he carries now a very handy advantage. Not less than 4 minutes and 22 seconds into this final stage. 11 victories already this year. The hits just keep on coming for him. And he certainly perfected the bouquet toss, that's for sure. 4:22, just 5 seconds back to Vacek, who's now up and onto the podium, ahead of Bajoli, who's dropped 1 place. Brandon McNulty's holding steady. Tobias Foss, great time trial from him. Wonder how he's going to get on today in the big mountains for the Net Company Ineos squad. Plenty of riders with lofty ambitions today to try and move up and down in the GC. And maybe, just maybe, a few riders who fancy a bit of a push from the breakaway today. UAE are in command of the team classification, such as it is. Tadej Pogacar leads on points and, of course, the overall. Louis Vervaeke is gone raiding to see if he can extend his advantage in the mountains competition, and Vacek as well has ambitions beyond just the young rider competition. Here's what's in prospect. Over 4,100 meters in actual fact of elevation today. And the climb to the Col de la Croix begins even before kilometre 0 in actual fact. They'll do 8.8 kilometres of it, up and over the top. They'll give Cat 2 points for that, then plunge down towards Aigle. And then back up the climb. We've got a 50-kilometre loop to do on sort of 2.5 occasions. It's basically down the mountain, back up the mountain, down the mountain, back up the mountain. And then the last time we do it, having done some sprinting as well, it's 11 kilometres from the foot of the climb through to the finish line at the end. That's the profile, and it's not exaggerating. It is a really, really tough day.
I expect just a really hard day. Like you say, the first stages were quite punchy and also hard, but today is more, yeah, I like this stage. In 2024, I was quite good here, and we do 1 more lap today, so on paper it suits me, and I'm just looking forward to giving a good effort. I think today's the first mountain day of the race, and yeah, just a good test for the climbing legs, and just to see how I'm going. But yeah, feeling good and looking forward to the day.
It's so hard to predict. I think it's impossible to say. I think like they showed on the first stage, and even UAE don't even know their full plan sometimes. So yeah, we just have to see how it goes. But I would expect a hard race all day and a lot of suffering.
Yeah, it's about. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Today is a lot about team management, and energy management, how we go through the stage with all the riders, and yeah, we hope for a good day. That all of our teammates have a good day.
And so say all of us, as you would expect, the overall race leader. Not much to say beyond I've got a huge lead and I want to see if I can win the race. Vacek has ambitions beyond that, perhaps to overhaul Richard Carapaz. Louis Vervaeke as well knows that it's going to be tough to fend off Tadej Pogačar for that mountains crown. Romain Gregoire will wear the points classification jersey on behalf of Tadej Pogačar. What are his realistic ambitions today? For Pogačar, another stage success and an extended advantage at the head of general classification, not beyond the bounds of possibility, but something special from the breakaway as well is also certainly has potential. And the riders sent on their way in characteristic style. It's Philippe Pastor, the local municipality, waving the national flag. And there's a string of abandons, I can tell you. These are the riders who didn't take the start today. Sigart Hamilton, Matthew Brennan after his sprints a couple of days ago. Stuart Bax was also up the road. Julian Alaphilippe, disappointment for his fans. He's not going to take part in today's stage. And there's a list as long as your arm of riders who haven't made it to the finish line either today. It's really, really tough. The weather conditions have been sort of borderline on the towards the weather protocol, not quite there, but it's north of 30 degrees Celsius again. Rizabek Balocki hasn't had the week he would have liked. Moraine Vandenberg, no sprints for him today. Radek Orn Christoph, the youngest rider in the race, is not going to be able to make it to the finish line. Of course, this is a circuit. They're coming through the finish line, and when that happens and riders are so far back, sometimes it is the sensible thing to do is actually to stop. Top of the first climb, Vervaeke took the 6 points. That's useful. That's put him 10 points clear now of Tadej Pogačar in the battle for that mountains crown. No doubt Pogačar will be a little bit more in evidence towards the back end. Took the 20 on offer at the second climb. Now that's significant because with that information literally just coming to me as it comes to you on the screen there, and that 20 points potentially has put him into an unassailable lead. Let's get a look at that. He's got 26 points of a lead, and by my calculation just 20 points left. So it looks like Vervaeke has done a really excellent job, I have to say, managing to infiltrate the break a couple of times this week and really got his climbing legs on. Some great form displayed by Louis Vervaeke from Soudal Quickstep this week. The Belgian rider looks like he's on his way to the final and victory podium as we look down the valley and look to see where the riders are. Mauro Schmidt, well, we know where he is. He's back at the team car. He's still part of the main group. Fine climber. And well, let's get a look at this group. What are we picking up here? Is it the group of the overall race leader? Schmidt not part of the group that went raiding out front. I can tell you there's quite a big group of riders that raced clear. But Schmidt indeed is part of it. So a group of 10 riders with Mattia Gaffuri joining of late. And that makes it 11. Afonso Lalio has had a bit of a mechanical issue, so he's off the back at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it in. And there are 2 riders here who've scored podium finishes, overall podium, general classification finishes in this event in the past. Down towards the back there, number 73 with that the familiar cadence. It's Bauke Mollema, the oldest man in the bike race, and he's gone up front. Vervaeke, easy to pick out, isn't he, in that green jersey? And Nairo Quintana in that white jersey with the big blue M on it. Another rider heading towards the sunset of his career. Both he and Mollema are going to hang up their wheels at the end of the season, but not without giving this one big play. For Mollema, it might be a bit of a double whammy here. He's going for stage honours, but it's certainly very, very useful, isn't it, for his teammates with the Lidl Trek squad to be in this position. For both Vacek and Baggioli, who were vying for that final podium position. Vacek also with designs on second, perhaps. To have a rider of the calibre of Bauke Mollema up front Well, that's a very useful scenario for them. Paul Double in the purple of Jaco Lula is the British climber, who won't be afraid, I think, of the standard of opposition that he's up against here in this breakaway group. He will be afraid of the fact that they've only given them 1 3/4 minutes. Last time I heard it was just a bit north of 2 minutes, but suffice it to say, they haven't really been extending the rope out to that breakaway today from the main peloton. There's the peloton, still large in number, despite the numerous abandonments today. Time to catch our breath. Inside 80 to go, up and over the second appearance of Côte de la Croix. Yeah, first time up it, they did 8.8 kilometers of it. So basically, Villars-sur-Orlon, our start and finish point on this 50-kilometer circuit, is sort of halfway, just a little bit beyond halfway up the climb. And they will. They went up and over that one, 8.8, then plunged down to Aigle, which of course is the seat of power in world bicycle racing. The UCI has its base there. Plunge down, then back up and over the Côte de la Croix, and then heading back down again. And in pursuit, the yellow jerseys race team on the front, Brandon McNulty at the back of their lineup. There's the white jersey of Vacek in position where he likes and needs to be. Pagioli just on his wheel, by the way. Decathlon, CMA, CGM. What plans have they got today? They've got Matthew Riccatello, who we heard from at the top of our show. The young American rider, he mentioned he goes okay on this climb, and he has done in the past. His most recent appearance was in 2024. Played host to a stage 8 time trial when Riccatello managed to finish 4th on that occasion, but he was 3rd the day before. And they raced a 118-kilometer stage, a short mountain stage, won by Britain's Adam Yates, and Riccatello 3rd up the hill, sort of announcing his arrival actually on the big stage with that particular performance. So Decathlon have a good one, and he's coming into some good form at the moment. And Riccatello is still very much part of this group. The group still large in number, and despite the fairly intense pace that's been set by the UAs on the front and keeping that breakaway, quite a tight remove. Well, it's still a pretty large group that are riding along in the wake. I just spotted Lucas Hamilton there, I'm quite sure. And Hamilton was listed as one of the riders that's climbed off, so I'll keep tabs on that to see if there are any other riders that perhaps are listed. Yeah, Lucas Hamilton, number 63, on dispatches early on as having climbed off. He's very much there. Through the roadworks. Nice little contraflow earlier on that delayed me a little bit on the way to the finish line. Not that I still got here hours before, but it was just coming back from trying to get some fuel for the car. And the closest thing to a rough road surface that you're going to get anywhere in Switzerland. It's absolutely beautiful conditions for racing, and if those riders took a little peek over the railings there, they might get a bit of vertigo. Quite the plunge down. This breakaway group in pursuit of glory on this now somewhat truncated 5-stage event that is Tour de Suisse 2026. A little bit of help and encouragement to Louis Vavaca, who's done the needful. By my calculations, I think he has established a now insurmountable advantage. Going to head around and back up the climb. But to my understanding, he's done enough to win this mountains title. Domen Novak on the front, Tim Wellens after a fine time trial performance yesterday. I think we should have a little bit of a chat about that time trial. It was the most remarkable thing. It revised timing. The timekeepers, of course, will go to the final arbiter, which is the photograph, just to be absolutely certain, especially when it's down to fractions of a second. And after mature reflection and consideration, they came to the conclusion that the gap between Tadej Pogacar in taking his 9th career time trial success and Mathieu van der Poel, who has yet to win a time trial as a senior professional rider, was the vanishingly small amount of just 0.04 of a second. I mean, how many different parts of that time trial or places could Mathieu van der Poel potentially have made up that 0.04 of a second? Similarly, I'm sure Tadej Pogacar's thinking, I could have, maybe put that one to bed with a little bit more comfort had I done this, that, or the other different places. But yeah, it was really, really tight. And just that final couple of corners, actually, Mathieu van der Poel running wide through the first of those two right-handers within the last 300 metres. Potentially that ultimately cost Mathieu van der Poel the victory that he would have, I mean, it wouldn't have been career-defining for him, but to win a time trial, I think that he would have very much liked to add that to his palmarès, especially had he claimed the victory ahead of Tadej Pogacar. That would have been significant. Colour order for the groups, and the group indeed as they are racing through the valley. Still a large number of riders, a long way to go here. The third of our assaults on the Côte de la Croix today. Well, that will be completed with 42.4 kilometres of the day remaining. It's a long climb, 19.6 kilometres. So twice up the full, almost 20k climb that is the Côte de la Croix. The second of those two full ascents of it begins with 62 kilometres to go. So it's about 12 kilometres, if my maths is up to the job, for the breakaway group before they'll start to climb again. Let's just go through the names and the numbers in that breakaway group again, just to bring you up to speed on this fifth and final day. It's the climbiest day by miles, easily the Queen stage, no argument about that. It's actually the first day this week where we've been in the big mountains. I mean, they're all around you, wherever you go in Switzerland. There's plenty and plenty of small ones as well, and they've been quite demanding, but always in the distance you can see the snow caps of the Alps and all its various different incarnations, whether Austrian or French or Italian in the distance. Most remarkable nation. And yeah, there are basically three riders in this breakaway group that are some sort of a threat on general classification. Indeed, certainly if not a threat to Tadej Pogacar, certainly a threat to other riders, and they can move up significantly on general classification. Best placed rider of our 11-rider breakaway is Andrew August, the young American rider with the Net Company Ineos squad. 7 minutes and 36 down, starting the day. Bart Lemon is the second best placed Visma bike rider in the race, as August is also the second best placed Net Company Ineos rider in the race. It's useful for Tobias Foss to have a breakaway, a rider, a companion in that breakaway. Bart Lemon too will get the good graces and the encouragement of Wilco Kelderman and friends at the Visma bike squad as he goes into the break. 8 minutes and 5 seconds down. And Mattia Gafuri from the Picnic Post NL team Picnic Post NL. It's 19th overall at 8 minutes and 38 seconds. Best placed rider from the Team Picnic Post NL squad. And he's managed to link up with this breakaway after a little bit of a chase. Other riders to conjure with, Afonso Eulalio, 9 days in pink in the recent Giro d'Italia. Lenny Martinez, tough old few days for him, but he's kind of reset and gone again, preparing for the Tour de France. And Lenny Martinez, another rider who knows these mountains around here. Martinez finished 6th in the time trial, up to Villars-sur-Olon on this climb a couple of years ago. Albeit didn't really feature on the previous day's road racing stage. Martinez, quality rider with the Bahrain Victorious team. Finn Fisher-Black as well, coming off a brace of 10th place finishes. Went up for the sprint on day 3 and then 10th in the time trial yesterday. Pole double. was part of the day 2 breakaway. Was it day 1? Might have been day 1 in actual fact. He's been prominent this week. British climber in his first year at World Tour level with the Jacob Alula squad. Vaca happy enough to take his cue from others on this descent. Stage winner in Tour of Oman at the beginning of last season, his standout result. A couple of stage race victories at lower ranked levels, which sort of helped to carry him into World Tour racing. He's been with the Sidal Quick-Step squad since beginning of 2023 after serving his time for a couple of years with Team Sunweb, and he actually began as a lot of Sidal rider in actual fact. That has morphed into Sidal Quick-Step. He's gone around a couple of Belgian, Dutch and Belgian teams, and now back with the Wolfpack, potentially delivering some podium glory today. Really like to do something a little bit more than that, maybe top 10, top 6 finish in a major World Tour stage. So I just took a moment there to chat to the head of the timing operation here, and he was just telling us that the TV graphic yesterday, that 31 hundredths of a second gap between Tadej Pogačar and Mathieu van der Poel, that was sort of calculated by the TV company, and that's something that they're able to do, and it's normally it's pretty accurate, very, very close, but the actual TISO timing, the official timekeepers had that one down to just 4 hundredths of a second. So that's where if you're wondering where that anomaly came from, fundamentally the final arbiter, the first and final arbiter, is are the timekeepers, the hard-working timekeepers here, actually, because they've had 2 bike races to do. They had 2 time trials yesterday, the women's race followed by the men's, and today as well, as they have had all week, 2 races to do. So it's a very early start for a lot of people here. Again, with the TV company as well, everyone involved in facilities management and setting it all up. They've got to drive from the previous location, break it all down. Long drive. They usually get here sort of after midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Then they start setting up, usually in bed sort of 2, 3 o'clock in the morning or beyond. And then they literally have to be back to make sure that everybody's happy and ready to go at the crack of dawn, usually sort of 7 o'clock in the morning, in order to get the women's race underway. Then there's a little bit of a reprieve for a couple of hours in between women's and men's race, how to catch your breath, and then go again for the men's race, and then break it all down and go again. So everyone's looking forward to getting to their beds, I think, at the end of this particular event. But it's been a fantastic experiment, a wonderful adventure, and I think a very interesting one. I think it's one that will be repeated, which is maybe something you should just whisper around some of the facilities operators around here. But the timekeepers as well, they've had a lot of work to do. With the time trial, that's a particularly challenging one. But today as well, with a circuit race where they're coming through the finish line on a regular basis and tripping a beam, and that has to be recorded. That's extra work as well. So it's quite a team. It's just one team. I mean, how many different teams are involved here? You've got everyone looking after the marshals. You've got the moto group. You've got the helis. The TV production side of things is an absolutely vast army of experts and hard-working professionals who've gathered, set up camp every day, create multiple hours, 4 or 5 hours of live TV across 2 different races, beam that across the world, and then do it again the following day. And I think it's probably a good time to give a little bit of a name check and a shout out to the the moto crews out on the road supporting it today. Today is a challenging one for sure for the motos. Uphill, down dale. So you're either crawling along and trying to keep the bike upright, and you've got a pillion on board and lots of extra equipment, and those panniers that carry a huge amount of extra weight. You've got the radio equipment, the RF equipment that has to transmit the signal, and then you've got the pillion, and of course the camera he's carrying. It's a challenging job going up a hill, kind of going slowly, trying to be in the right place at the right time and not in the way, and then plunge down the other side, and you're going absolutely flat out. You can barely keep up with the riders. Rinse and repeat for 150 odd kilometers. So suffice it to say, it's a busy one, and it's a busy one for the breakaway. Down into Aigle and heading for the climb once again. I think anyone who's ever been to Aigle, they've got a velodrome here, and they've got as well the World Cycling Centre, and indeed UCI for many a long year have had, at this point it's been for many years, but they've invited riders particularly from nations that don't have a lot of infrastructure or a lot of support for high performance, so that riders who show a bit of promise can get the full benefit of all of the resources necessary for them to explore their ability. And we've had lots and lots of riders who've come through the World Cycling Centre and on to World Tour teams, or indeed to great exploits in track racing and other disciplines of the sport as well. It's a part of Switzerland as well that the referees and the commissars come to every year for meetings, and new commissars are at amateur level and all the way up to the very highest echelons of the sport are trained. And the entire administration of the sport hereabouts. And that's not UCI headquarters, by the way. So it would be quite a nice one. Probably tough to keep warm in the winter. Tough to keep cool in the summer. That's Aigle. There is UCI headquarters, as I mentioned, and the velodrome, which dominates it. The World Cycling Centre, as I said, and so many riders from different nations, from, I suppose what might be somewhat pejoratively called the lesser nations. I think we've come up with different ways of saying it than that, but those that are not quite as well resourced. And so many riders have come through this particular facility over the years, and I've been grateful for that opportunity. And they will remember with fondness and affection their time developing their skills as track cyclists, as road racing cyclists, and as you can see as BMX riders. A fantastic BMX facility there. Great pump tracks just off to the right. It's a 200-meter velodrome as well, so if you can cut your teeth and get the hang of racing on the shorter boards, I think I'm right in saying that. 250, of course, is the more usual number at international level these days. Most Olympic velodromes are at 250 length. Meanwhile, Doman Novak, he's from a nation with just, 2.5 million of a population. How many World Tour level top-class professional road racing cyclists over the last 10-15 years have come out of Slovenia? It is remarkable. Nothing succeeds like success, and, well, Tadej Pogačar just won on the conveyor belt. Clearly, he is the shining beacon, and that is encouraging every Slovenian to at least buy a bike and see if they like it, and that's... nothing succeeds like success. So Doman Novak, part of that conveyor belt himself, and doing the needful for his teammate. Third in line at the moment. Niels Pollitt, second in line. Pollitt, decent time trial yesterday, 14th for the big German. They packed well, didn't they, in that top 10. Brandon McNulty 9th. Might have hoped for more, actually, in the time trial, McNulty, but still a good top 10 performance. Felix Großschartner was 6th as well, the German national time trial champion. And in peloton, with the contribution of the likes of Novak and Pollitt, and as we saw a little earlier, Tim Wellens, who I suspect is going to maybe just take a short break. They're only letting them have 1 2/3 minutes, and that's not going to be enough. They're going to need, starting the final climb, what is it, 11 kilometers the final climb? They're surely going to need a minimum of 4 or 5 minutes. Finn Fisher-Black, useful man to have in the breakaway as well. Starting the day, 36th overall at 22 minutes and 30 seconds. He's not a threat, the New Zealander, but he's useful shortly for Primoz Roglic, who's moved into the top 10 as a result of his 12th place in yesterday's time trial. Speaking of Slovenian superstars, Roglic 9th overall at 6 minutes and 4 seconds if he's to make further inroads. Always useful to have a rider up the road. You'd never know when you need to do a little bit of chasing, or you too yourself might be part of a plan hatched to race clear of the other group of favourites. Link up with the riders up front, and then those riders, if they're there available, they can give a turn or two, a turn or 4 or more. For Paul Double, it's useful for him to be up front for the Jaco Alula squad. Finlay Pickering slipped out of the top 10 yesterday, 12th overall at 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Kind of half think that it's more for himself and Schmidt, the Swiss champion in this group as well, both from the same team, and thinking about stage honours. Well, looks pretty cool, calm and collected amongst the leaders. Less so for others. There's one of the UAEs, there's Pollitt on the left. Let's get a closer look. It's Großschartner, actually. Bidon's flying everywhere. Yeah, Großschartner just back in his bike in a thrice. I think it was just a chain unchipped, and with Bidon's flying all over the place, I wonder if he didn't hit a bump and that just maybe just unshipped his chain at a moment where he was changing gear or whatever. He'll surely be back up front pretty quickly. And here's Wellens. He wasn't taking a rest, he was back at the team car getting bottles. Belgian road race champion. Huge ride from him on day 1, and this would be a nice way to bookend the week, wouldn't it, if he was able to help the springboard to glory for Tadej Pogačar again. Cap's gone out slightly. Pogačar and the favourites group still, the GC group still, I think it's the dial, the swingometer is in their favour at the moment. But still a long way to go, plenty of opportunity for that breakaway group to now start to extend their lead. They haven't been lacking for effort. Group 1 includes the King of the Mountains leader, Louis Vervaeke, so that's why you have that little green jersey in the caption. We're on to the climb, and by the way, we have the Tissot Sprint. Somewhat, it's almost a sort of a term of irony at this point, isn't it? Because it's on the climb. Mind you, this climb does have a little plateau section, but that comes, the first of those come with 55.5 kilometers to go, and then 54.5 for the second one. Breakaway group seem destined to scoop those 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds, and someone's going to get a trip to the podium to collect a watch. Meanwhile, Vincenzo Albanese is on bottle duty, the Italian. He's an all-rounder, capable of coming up with a decent sprint finish from a small group. And everyone yo-yoing back and forth. Peleo Sanchez, the latest, as we're seeing a little bit of a shake-up in the group. Is this a problem for Andrew August? That would be a surprise. That's to be said. Finished 19th in the time trial yesterday, not the testing performance or the test performance that he would have expected. One wonders what the legs are like. So that gave him a little bit of space. Starting the day 14th overall, 7:36 down. Went to the break. And it may well be that he's just coming back from the team car. He's got bottles on board here. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just a signal that legs aren't where exactly he would like them to be. Andrew August, just 20 years of age. Oh, I mean, still he's actually in his 3rd year of World Tour racing. And I mean, we're kind of thinking of him as an old hand, well, certainly as an experienced pro. He's only 20. I mean, it's remarkable. He won't be 21 until October. And a very young rider, still getting his legs, getting that consistent ability to perform day in, day out. But already, of course, 2 wins this season. So, you know, starting to think of him as and he's a project player. I think that's how he's been termed, isn't it, with the Net Company Ineos squad. Signing him straight out of the junior ranks. He was part of the Hot Tubes development cycling team, that US club team that has sent so many riders up and into the professional ranks in recent seasons, and picked up by the Ineos Grenadiers squad at the end of 2023. It's the new way, isn't it? They're signing them on long-term contracts straight out of junior ranks already. You know, you get in the junior ranks, in the UCI racing level at any rate, international level amongst the under-18s, under-19s. They're getting bikes and support from major World Tour outfits. And then if they come up with a few decent results, that's it, they're signed. They get them on relatively cheap contracts, but that long-term development ability as well, that the resources available at the World Tour level to support the riders with the right nutrition and coaching advice, and make sure that they're nurtured and supported in the right way. Sometimes riders can get swallowed up and spat out somewhat by the machine of Continental into Pro Team into World Tour racing. There are some, I mean, really excellent Continental outfits that are very well organized, very well structured, and others that just simply aren't quite as good, don't have the money, don't have the resources, so they'll have a small roster and they'll put riders into just about every race. They'll take every race invite that they can get. They're often getting those race invites as teams quite late, and as a result, riders don't get a consistent program. They can't plan their season with any effectiveness. Is this Kwiatkowski just got to grab a bottle, or no, wants to? Yeah, very, very clear and specific requirement. Worth a little effort there from the former world road race champion, Michał Kwiatkowski. Well, having gone to the front and made that little extra effort, takes a moment just to chat to Tadej Pogačar, probably trying to find out, get an idea what the plan is actually. Marco Haller. We heard actually that Marco Haller was in a crash earlier on today, so he's still on his bike. If so, that's admirable from the Austrian rider who's in the Tudor jersey, just off to the left-hand side. This climb in this heat, I mean, that's just been the topic of the week, has been the heat, the logistics around the race as well. Everyone talking about the demands of that, but the heat for the riders is the major consideration, something that they won't have necessarily been. It's not unexpected, it's this time of year. But for all that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all that easy. Michael Matthews, back racing, delighted I think, got 5 days racing in France last week, and now well, managed 8th place or 6th across the line from the bunch in that stage 3, where they didn't quite manage to catch the 2-man breakaway. But Michael Matthews, one of the 3 riders in this race that has won 2 stages of Tour de Suisse, I remember a terrific stage into Bern, the nation's capital, some years back, about 10 years ago. And Michael Matthews just like scolded a cat. It was a ramp. It was quite a relatively steep finish for a sprinter. It was a Matthews-style finish or a Peter Sagan-style finish as it was in those days. And Matthews it was that prevailed. And again, I seem to remember a surface change, some cobbles involved in that one as well. And it was, yeah, it was a spectacular win for a sprinter. Double has opened the vest. Speaking of which, actually, Mathieu van der Poel copped a fine. Yeah, sort of eye-watering 500 Swiss francs, not to be sneezed at. Less of an issue, I think, for Mathieu van der Poel than it would be for others. But yes, he was fined for basically not having the correct attire while he sat in the hot seat, waiting to understand his fate as decreed by Tadej Pogacar yesterday. So not only did he not get to win the stage ultimately and take a victory in a time trial, but then insult to injury and endured the ignominy of being called to account by the commissars afterwards, and they took somewhat exception to the fact that he wasn't wearing correct team attire. Pretty hot, I think, in that tent yesterday. It never occurred to me for a single moment, but I'm sure that rule is clearly defined, and Mathieu van der Poel probably thought it was worth it. He'd have paid double if they could have switched that 400ths of a second deficit to be a victory by 400ths of a second. Nonetheless, very impressive performance. It'll give him great encouragement, I suspect, to give a full account of himself on the time trial bike in the battles to come. Your breakaway group still easing clear. A little bit of extra daylight, but it's kind of the same maximum lead that they've had so far. Needs to be more, doesn't it? It's the third time they'll make it up to the summit of the Côte de la Croix, and the second time that they're doing the full near 20-kilometer climb. And for all that this is a big group in here, this work is costing some riders more than it's costing others. The likes of Tadej Pogacar, he's entirely within his comfort zone here. For others, they'll be thinking, I'm not sure how much more of this I can do. Okay, just to reiterate, we will make it up to the top of this climb, 42.4 to go. Don't need to be much of a mathematician to know that we have got just a smidgen over 14 kilometers still of this climb remaining. It just goes on and on. It is a relatively steady climb, and I mean it does list a maximum gradient of 18%, but there's not really, in reality that's just for a moment. This one's a 7% climb. The first part, the first sort of 11k, it does level off after that for a couple of kilometers, and then the next section up to the finish line is a little bit more demanding. Or up to the top of the climb, I should say. Romain Gregoire also unzipped, does indeed have half the peloton at this point. His points jersey. Sylvain Dillier, a relatively quiet week from the Swiss rider with the Alpes in Premier Tech squad. Traditionally fairly prominent in this particular event, as you would expect. Best placed Swiss rider on general classification, by the way, is Mark Hirschi, 23rd overall at 10 minutes and 13 seconds. And I kind of fancied Mark Hirschi to do something in this particular stage. Still plenty of time for that to happen. But he's not going to do it from an early move. And Beckham on bottle duty here, as much for himself as anyone else. Darren van Beckham. I suppose if you're going to be down the back of the peloton, you're at least you don't have far to go to collect the bottles, and a bit of ice as well. Niels Pollitt now in command of the peloton on behalf of Tadej Pogacar, who starts the day with 4 minutes and 22 seconds of an advantage. He's got by miles the most amount of daylight of any two riders. The biggest gap by a huge gulf is the gap between first and second. Richard Carapaz hung on by his fingernails to second place overall in the time trial yesterday. 37th fastest for him by contrast. Matthias Vacek was an altogether more impressive fourth place in that test. Vacek and Baggioli also part of the battle for podium finish in this one. You got to say it's hard to see unless it would be a major revolution. Oh, crash! Right, it's down. It's Roglic. No, it's very much Slovenian start. No, it's Vlasov all over the ranch. Yeah, Alexander Vlasov. We'll get there eventually. Let's get a look at this again. I mean, it looked like a relatively benign tumble. Oops, and just touch of wheels in there. Relatively slow speed. Sort of think the slow speed ones, your assumption is that there won't be much pain, and very often there isn't, but you can fall clumsily and very easily snap a collarbone or two. Luckily, that one isn't the case here, so Alexander Vlasov should be able to rejoin. It's not absolutely flat out on that peloton either, so it shouldn't be too much of an investment here from Alexander Vlasov, who has performed with distinction in this event in the past. Now heading to the Tissot Sprint. Amongst the riders up front, Vervaeke already knows that if you take the maximum amount of seconds available here, that you get a trip to the podium. Well, he's already guaranteed that for the Mountains jersey, but maybe, just maybe, take the 3 bonus seconds here. Need a little bit of an extra push. Gaffori also wants to join. Gaffori may be thinking about trying to improve his position by grabbing the 2 bonus seconds. If he is to survive today as part of the breakaway, everything could count in large amounts. And Mauro Schmidt, third across the line. Martinez next up. These riders moving easily amongst those breakaway riders. That's caused a little bit of consternation. So surprisingly, Bart Lemon is detached here. I kind of think he's probably playing a canny game and just thought it's not worth making any extra effort and just ease my way. Speaking of easing way, Quintana, Nairo Quintana, just up onto the tail of that one. Paul Double didn't want to be caught napping. Bauke Mollema at the back here, number 73. He's not one for panicking. There's the first of them. Normally these come, you know, in quick succession, don't they? They're only a kilometre apart, and then it's just a sort of a blur, isn't it? And suddenly we're redistributing another 3, 2 and 1 seconds 1 kilometre later. But we're on a big climb here, so it's going to be a while before they can think about the second one. Mind you, they go quicker than most mere mortals, don't they, up this mountain? Speaking of which, there's a huge crowd hereabouts on this climb. It's been great all morning to see all the cyclo-tourists arriving up into Villars-sur-Olon and enjoying the delights of the local fair. It is, of course, a ski resort, so it's got all of the structure with cafes and bars and restaurants and plenty of ice cream outlets doing a roaring trade today, it has to be said. Mauro Schmidt takes command. Now who's going to get the watch here? If like the maximum amount of bonus seconds taken is 3, then it's whoever wins this one. and that's not the case there because Vavak has scored at both of them. Schmidt, I think, might have been third at the first one, in which case they might both have 4 bonus seconds, in which case Mauro Schmidt gets the watch. I think we will see how that's all decided. Bauke Mollema not found wanting there, just eased his way. After that little fracture, you could tell there was no sustained push. Meanwhile, in the group of favourites, Niels Pollitt, I mean, communication is the essence of this sport, isn't it? And the shake of the head. What does that say from Niels Pollitt? I'm not sure I'm going to be here at the top of the climb, or this all feels very much as if we're in control. Gap out to 2:33. I mean, this is not of any... Tadej Pogačar doesn't have to win this stage in order to win this bicycle race. In some ways, it's those teams that might fancy taking stage victory or are somehow threatened by the riders in that breakaway, going to prevent them from taking stage honours. And also, potentially, there's several riders in there that could improve their position and move up and into the top 10. And top 10's a bit of a thing, isn't it? I mean, it's UCI points, it's the prestige of being on that sort of, the top of the first page of GC. Well, Darren Rafferty is very much in that group. There's another rider who's listed as having... Well, actually, he wasn't in dispatches. I did spot his tracker wasn't reading at one stage. But, yeah, he's in there and he's available. Vacek in the white jersey. Just on the tail of Darren Rafferty, who has Carapaz to look after today. A solid job, and it's useful because Balocchi has stopped. And it's not a whole lot of riders available to Richard Carapaz. We've seen Vincenzo Albanese. I suspect Luc Lamperti is not much enjoying this. Moraine van den Berg is already listed as a non-finisher. Not sure where Colby Simmons is, but just one rider there available for the man sitting second overall to support his interests. And that's the thing, isn't it, about Tadej Pogačar? He's the best in the world, and he also can call on such an array of talent. I mean, there are so many riders here to support and escort Tadej Pogačar. It's like the rich get richer, isn't it? I mean, that's the essence of this sport. If Tadej Pogačar was on a team where he didn't have teammates that could really follow the pace or be available to him in the high mountains, it's not by any means unlikely that he would still find a way to win the race, but it would be it would be a much more demanding sport for him, and then he wouldn't win as often. If you're not winning as often, then what does that do to your expectations? In the entire sport and his entire experience as a racing cyclist would be different were it not for the fact that he has such a strong team around him. A fact that he acknowledges repeatedly at every single interview. It's almost become a mantra. You know, he's almost weary in kind of relaying it. But make no doubt, it's something that he feels in his bones, and it's a very honest expression of gratitude for such a strong team. I mean, you know, Brandon McNulty has got a big day today. He's got to be available in that final 11-kilometer haul. Once they're over the top of this one with 42.5 to go, plunge down the other side and then set up for that final run to the line. But I mean, where are the attacks going to come from? Where is the threat going to come from? What teams are going to want to at least see if they can... I mean, are they going to try and attack a group that includes Tadej Pogačar? Or are they simply going to try and follow and hope that their rivals are not able to follow and that they will be able to, and therefore they'll be able to retain or maybe improve their position in general classification? And that will do, because to even imagine trying to beat Tadej Pogačar today might be just... an unreasonable and unlikely ambition. I have to say, I understand that point of view. Riccatello dancing on the pedals. Andrea Baggioli, a little bit more sort of prosaic his approach, just one in front of him. Still hereabouts, enjoying the experience at the moment. Tobias Foss, number 62, the best placed rider from the Netcompany Ineos squad, in the top 10 now. Foss sixth overall. Vlasov back up and in front of Primoz Roglic. They're packing well there, and plenty of Bora Hansgrohe support. And Mathieu van der Poel still hereabouts. You will see this, won't you? I mean, I know that there are riders in this group that have ambitions in the Tour de France. And even if they don't imagine winning in the high mountains in the Tour de France from the group of favourites, maybe they can do something in breakaway groups. So therefore, they will absolutely empty the tank in Tour de Suisse in the big mountains just to prepare themselves for the battles to come. Finlay Pickering outside of the top 10 now for the young Briton, but he too is another rider with. We want to see what he's capable of. They continue to hone the machine to perfection. There's Mark Hirschi, found him. Best placed Swiss rider. Former final stage winner of Tour de Suisse actually a few years ago. As I say, 23rd overall, just over 10 minutes down on general classification. Not a threat to Tadej Pogačar, indeed the top 10 at the moment, but groups are not less than the 123 that finished yesterday's stage. Lalio gone again. We did see him over and heard that he was off the back of the group following mechanical issues earlier on. It would appear that the legs just aren't quite up to it. I mean, he is, I think, heading to the beach quite soon, because Alfonso Lalio has the Giro d'Italia in his legs at this point, and I think mentally he must be as spent as physically at this point, and I've no doubt that the team are grateful to him for his efforts. Made a huge effort, didn't he, on day 2. Finished 9th on the day. Really professional effort from Alfonso Lalio, and he's at least got Lenny Martinez in here, who's still part of this group, who believe that they can vie for stage honours today. Judging by a few of the faces in there, this group are pushing hard to try and extend, or at least maintain their advantage, and maintain it is just about all they're doing right now. Paul Double looks as if Liz is hurting a bit. Nairo Quintana as well, Colombian veteran. This is Andrew August just coming back. Netcompany Ineos rider. He's going to find it tough to make his way back up and into the top 10 today. Indeed, necessarily going to be able to support the interests of Tobias Foss. I wonder how long he'll be able to stay in this group. There's a big push on here from Niels Pollitt to give what he can for as long as he can, but he's got another 10k of this. He's going to be part of this group. Tim Wellens and Felix Grossschartner in line astern. Didn't see Jonathan Narve as part of that group, but I did see him a little earlier on, so I'd be surprised if he's not. Did mention that he wasn't particularly interested in GC and that he would be working as hard as he could to support Tadej Pogačar today. Finished 56th in the time trial yesterday, did Jonathan Narve, as the winner of stage 3 from the breakaway. There it is in all its splendour and glory, Villars-sur-Olon. It's one of the more scenic mountain resorts. We're in the canton of Vaud in Switzerland, just above the Rhone Valley, in what they call the Vaud Alps. tourism, skiing. Popular part of the world for education as well. One of Switzerland's very earliest ski lifts constructed hereabouts. It's a well-developed tourist trade. And up to and into Villars-sur-Olon. Not going to quite make the turn for the finish line just yet. Through that moment with 200 meters to go. Next lap round, they'll just swing around to the left and head for the finish line. But they're going to get the bell. 50k to go. And that's it for Mathieu van der Poel. I wonder, will he climb off or will he continue to do the last 50k? He might want to try and stay in just to continue to hone the engine ahead of the battle in France to come. Niels Pollitt must really be feeling this as well. This has got to be close to the limit of his climbing expertise. The big German rider is capable of getting over the short bergs of 1, 2, 3 kilometers. And the steady tempo riding in the big climbs as well. Remember, he's already been up over this climb once, as well as the sort of second half of it that they did at the very start of the day. This will give him a little bit of encouragement to stay in, and indeed Mathieu van der Poel perhaps to try and stay as close as he can to that lead group, because the next couple of kilometers actually we see it will start to ease a little bit. There's just a little plateau right in the middle of the climb. Plateau section starts with 48 to go, so about 4k to it in actual fact, so still a bit to go. Not quite out of the urban sprawl of Villars-sur-Olon just yet for the breakaway group, and peloton behind them just arriving at that into the town of Villars-sur-Olon. There's still a pretty big group in there. And Tadej Pogačar keeping his powder dry. Van der Poel, I think, will struggle to get back to this group. It's just too far to the top of the climb from here. And he, if he wants, could find someone to ride with. There will be a group behind. One more sprint, by the way. That's the sprint towards the points classification. No bonus seconds involved. And that comes just at the foot of the final climb. That's the Lidl sprint. Just 10.2 kilometers to go. The road will have ramped up, actually, by then. And another sprint on a climb, but yeah, that has 6, 4, and 2 points towards the points classification. As things currently stand, hard to see anyone being able to take that away from Tadej Pogačar. So Van Dillier available to keep Mathieu van der Poel company for the rest of the race, and that's it. When it's done in a spectacular fashion. Oh no, was it a mechanical issue? Well, Lenny Martinez, yeah, it was climbing with relative ease. So let's get a look at this again. Did he just have a problem with his gears? So now finds himself having to just make a tiny hint of an effort just to make his way back into the group. There's a beat on for you. Finished looking after the dog. Now let's get a look at Martinez and see what the issue is here for the Bahrain victorious rider. Yeah, chain off. I have to say, I really admire that. Hops off on the right-hand side of the bike. It's just so much easier. You hold it with your hold the bike with your left hand on the saddle or the top tube, and then just route the chain around through the bottom of the chain ring. It's together easier just to put it back on in a heartbeat. A lot of riders get off the other side of the bike because they kind of swing the leg over that side, don't they? And they find themselves and then leaning over the saddle, trying to achieve that objective while the chain is sort of upside down to them. They do then have two hands, so there are different opinions, but I've always been of the mind that it's just easier to do it from the right-hand side of the bike. Chain set's always on the right-hand side of the bike, by the way. It was tried, wasn't it, in track racing some years ago. There was the US team saw that there was an advantage potentially for basically center of gravity reasons in putting the chain set on the opposite side. There's no rule that says, but it has become the convention. Long since the convention in cycling, and all the component manufacturers and all of the protocols and standards, engineering standards around the sport say that the drivetrain is all on the right-hand side of the bike. But at track racing, yeah, that was tried. The thinking, I think, being that if you put the weight a little bit higher up above the rider when you're on the banking, somehow that helps you to get the bike into the bend. I'm not sure if it actually worked. It hasn't been repeated. Indeed, the US team, as far as I know, has long since reverted to a more conventional right-hand side train. Yes, if it was on the left, yeah, going around the left-hand bends, you would have sort of the center. It would put the center of gravity lower. It would just help turn the bike into the bend. That was the thinking, wasn't it? But again, it hasn't been repeated. In any event, Lenny Martinez back in his bike and back in with the leaders up front. Their advantage dwindling. This is a cracking ride here by Niels Pollitt. The longer he stays in there, the more troops are available to Tadej Pogačar. And while they crowd around the yellow jersey, there's just no sign of any long-range effort or big investment beyond the group of riders up front. It's 9 riders, by the way, now still clear of the field. Lost Andrew August. We've lost Afonso Eulalia, but we still have Eulalia's teammate, Lenny Martinez, Bauke Mollema, Nairo Quintana. The latter two named, of course, former podium finishers overall in this event. Finn Fisher-Black, Louis Vervaeke, the mountains leader. Mara Schmidt, the Swiss national road race champion. Paul Double, a British climber with the Jaco Alula squad. Mattia Gaffuri, the Italian climber with the Picnic Post NL team, and the climber Bart Lemon from the Team Visma Lisa Bike squad is part of the leading group up front. His advantage now is kind of yo-yoing around the place, and it's coming back. This is Roger Adria for the Movistar team on bottle duty. We saw Enric Mas with that familiar grimace, a toothy display of pain and suffering and endurance for the Spanish rider who starts the day 20th overall, 9 minutes and 11 down. And he has Roger Adria to support his interest today. I'm thinking Mas is their best option, but of course they've got Nairo Quintana up front in the breakaway. Andrew August still in the group, the lead group. It's down towards the back at the moment. Meanwhile, Emil Herzog is going to head back and collect bottles for Primož Roglič and friends, and indeed potentially for himself, lest we forget. Champagne number for a champagne ride yesterday, the time trial yesterday for Tadej Pogačar. They've given him the most valuable player or ride of the day. Lalio's back with the group of favourites now after his breakaway adventure. Richard Carapaz trying to stay as cool, calm and collected as possible. There's one rider to support. Vacek riding in front of Bajoli as well. They lie third and fourth place overall. Balkamulma up front in the breakaway. And three riders available to support Matthew Riccatello in his bid for a major top 10 on GC once again in this event. Riccatello, as I said, back in 2024, gave an announcement of his potential. Finished fifth overall as a result of his fourth place finish in that final stage time trial. Moving up the outside, Axel Lawrence, number 65, just onto the tail of Tobias Foss. Foss, number 62, and he's got Kwiatkowski just in front of him. And Andrew August kind of down the back. I suspect that August looked like he'd managed to recover a little bit. And may well be able to stay with this group up and over the top of this climb and be of some value to Tobias Foss in his hopes. And riders able to engage in a little bit of a chat as Andrew Mauricio just enjoying a bit of chat with Max Schachmann from the Sedal Quickstep squad. Mauricio, of course, after his breakaway exploits 2 days ago, no doubt has had plenty of riders from the peloton just coming up to congratulate him and ask him how it went and how he felt. A second place finish on the day behind Jonathan Narvaez, but nonetheless good result and memorable for him in his career. Down to 50 to go. 2/3 distance. And the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad still in control. Double looks as if he's bent double over the bike, isn't he? This doesn't look as if it's a good moment for the Jaco Alula rider. This gradient just asks a slightly bigger question at this point. Double looks like it's not the day for him, because I don't think that's him just looking for the Jaco Alula team car. They'll try and recover. It can happen. I mean, that riders just find themselves at a bit of a sugar deficit, and they get the gels back into the system, get a bit of recovery on the descent, but it's a long way to the descent from here, so the team will give them some encouragement. And just, you know, the concentration just goes away from you for a moment, and suddenly it becomes so much more difficult, and then you find yourself a few meters off the back and then trying to regain the rhythm. And there's the great graphic illustration of the fact that this breakaway group has not really been given a whole lot of opportunity today. Having said that, they haven't been able to take it, and partly due to the achievements of this man, Niels Pollitt. Looks as if that's enough for him, but his teammates will be pretty grateful for the effort of the big German. Not his natural environment, and yet top World Tour pro that he is, he's been able to contribute. Fabian Weiss not about to give up on his ambitions to stay with that lead group. Well, actually, Pollitt's just grabbing bottles here, so maybe I've done him a disservice and he's going to be able to cruise back up front. Oh yeah, apologies, Niels. Ah, no, take it all back. He's just grabbing bottles for himself. Yeah, that's it. Chapeau, and well done. Ta-ta. Now, first time we've seen a change at the front. It's the decathlon squad that want to do something a little bit special today. This for Matthew Riccatello, Teish Bonot, 16th overall, also a strong rider. They have riders like Paul Lepera that can climb, given an opportunity. Great time trial performance yesterday from Sandro De Pestel from the decathlon CMA CGM team. And it's Riccatello at the back of this quartet of riders who've decided that it's time to step on the gas here a little bit. Sandro De Pestel indeed setting the tempo at the front of the moment. Callum Scottson and Teish Bonot in line astern, and then Matthew Riccatello, the young American rider, one in front of the yellow jersey, and with designs on perhaps improving his 10th place overall situation. 36th in the time trial yesterday, managed to preserve his 10th place. The riders dropped behind him, like Finlay Pickering, and then riders moved ahead, like Jonathan Narvaez. He kind of stayed still in the water and remains in 10th place overall. He was 9th after the first stage. All double. He's going backwards. He'll try and find the rhythm, but it's not a good signal for the young Briton. All double, the 29-year-old from Winchester in the home counties. Overall winner of Tour of Guangxi at World Tour level in China at the end of last year. Actually his second season with the Team Jaco Alula squad. Lifted up into World Tour status following a year with the Team Polti Cometa squad. Paul Double knows that the tempo has gone on a little bit more extreme on the front of that breakaway group, albeit they have also set out a searing tempo on the front of the favourites group, and they're coming out in their droves at this point. Kreisvik's not about giving up on this one just yet. Morisa was chatting away a little while ago, but that's that, and Romain Gregoire too, leading well, second in that points competition, wearing that jersey for Tadej Pogacar. He'll get the miles in from here, but he, Valentin Madouas and others unlikely to play a role in the destination of Stage R overall honours at this point. Roger Adria is out too, no longer available for Enric Mas. Not sure how many Movistar riders are actually in there. I think maybe just Mas himself. Do, as I mentioned, have Nairo Quintana in the breakaway. Kreisvik, one of the more experienced riders in the peloton, indeed one of the riders with the most experience in Tour de Suisse. He's been part of the been contesting in Switzerland for quite a while. Baggioli gone backwards. Now that is a surprise. Baggioli, after his heroics on day one, third in his hometown of Sondrio. Well, he's lain third, sat in third position overall all week, but now back to fourth, replaced by his teammate Vacek after yesterday's time trial and going backwards here. And signal's not good for Baggioli. Italian rider, you can only do what you can do. And these are beasts of climbs. This is so much more demanding a climb than everything that they faced to this point this week. And this is an impressive show of strength here by the decathlon squad. It's got some Bonot and Riccatello in front of Tadej Pogacar, who takes up position in front of his teammates. They've kind of gone missing a bit as well. Is this Groschartner just behind him? Certainly Narvaez just behind him again. Where is Brandon McNulty? Anything less than a presence in the peloton for Brandon McNulty would be something of a surprise. Let's see what it is. Still a couple of teammates thereabouts. Doubt about the man they've come to see. Not tough to pick out. Oh, Bajoli is fighting and fighting and fighting and hoping that if he can stay with that group, that maybe he can rejoin in the cars, and maybe this is just a blip that he can recover. But, well, this is one of those ones where the road is relentless. Again, just to remind you, this one goes on and on. This one will run and run. We've still got another 4.2 kilometers, the riders up front, so just a little bit more than that for the main peloton, because they're advantaged down to less than 1.5 minutes now. Attila Valter, the Hungarian climber, also going backwards for the Bahrain Victoria squad. It'll be disappointing for them. Kreisvik, part of a group. And a couple of picnic post and L riders. Bjorn Kurt, I think, might have been one of those. British rider. Sam Oman for Lidl Trek. Fine climbing domestique. Thibaut Nace, well, cyclocross specialist. And some classy riders going south here. Kwiatkowski, the latest of them. Ponferrada world champ. Now accorded veteran status as part of the Net Company Ineos squad. Great asset and ally to the team, as indeed Tim Wellens is for the UAE squad, and he's continuing to fight here. Wellens going backwards, and the Belgian champion, joined by number 127 here, Filippo Zanna, who was part of that group up the road a couple of days ago. Zanna finishing 4th on day 2. He'll link up with Wellens. They won't give up just yet. A few kilometers to the top. If they can rejoin, they might still have a role to play in this one. This, though, is a difficult moment for Mark Hirschi. And he'll get plenty of cheer. The local fans, they know that their man is suffering, and they'll still continue to support him. Nothing less than. That's the essence of cycling, isn't it? I mean, if you're going well, you're feted and lauded. If you're not going well, you're appreciated and encouraged. It's not the kind of sport where you will get mocking hoots of derision. I mean, there are. The online world can be a cruel place to be assessed and analysed, that's for sure. And cycling's no exception in that regard. But generally speaking, your average bike racing fan is very ecumenical in their support and interests, and they like all riders and support them in all situations. More points to be distributed. Vervaeke just going to tick the box here, and of course it's probably worth noting and reminding everyone that this is the special prize for the Ride for Gino Mader, the late Gino Mader, lest we forget. And he'll be remembered, and a lot of riders, I think Schmidt would like to have potentially taken the prize here at the top of this climb. He's not going to get it. Martinez is going to take the top of the climb. And he acknowledges, there was a little acknowledgement there, I think, that by taking the prize here at this second and final complete ascent of the Côte de la Croix, that he will take the Ride for Gino prize. And a trip to the podium later on for that fact. Louis Vervaeke will win the Tour, win the Tour de Suisse Mountains competition. More points added to his haul there. Of little regard or interest or concern to Tadej Pogacar, who is probably his nearest and only challenger, but his day is, the narrative of his day is taking a different arc. And the peak, the denouement for him will be later in the day potentially. Still very much on for Tadej Pogacar and indeed the group of favourites to contend for stage honours today. You look at the way riders are in all sorts of disrepair here. desperately trying to stay connected. Axel Laurence is at the back of that large but dwindling group of favourites in pursuit of the breakaway. .220. So it came down to 1.5 minutes, didn't it? Or at least it was showing on our screens it's down to 1.5 minutes. I wonder how it done. Of course, they're over the other side and suddenly expanding their advantage, so we might get a better sense and a better reset as Vervaeke settles in once again towards the back of this 8-rider group now. Paul Double has been detached. I'm not sure how easy he's going to find to rejoin this group. Louis Vervaeke, the Belgian rider, with the Sedal Quick-Step squad at the back here, just trying to reconnect with Finn Fisher-Black of the Redwood War Hansgrohe team. Bauke Mollema from Lidl Trek in this move. Mara Schmidt, Jaco Alula, still remaining Jaco Alula rider after the departure of Paul Double, but don't rule out the idea that he might join up again. Still haven't been caught by the group of favourites. Lenny Martinez up front, Nairo Quintana, and Mathieu Gafouri as well. Well, Laurence has stayed connected to the group of favourites. He's available as a support act to Tobias Foss. Foss 6th overall starting the day. And the gaps between those riders is something I mentioned, was it's absolutely massive gaps between first and second. Tadej Pogacar with that 4 minutes and 22 seconds advantage, but well, the gaps down through the rest of the top 10 remain vanishingly small. Just 19 seconds between 3rd and 4th, albeit Baggioli's gone backwards. Brandon McNulty within 49 seconds of 3rd place, but he will dedicate himself to Tadej Pogacar, so unlikely to be a threat. But Tobias Foss, if either or any of the riders in front of him, we've already seen Andrea Baggioli struggling a little bit, but he started the day 52 seconds down on 3rd. Vacek looking pretty strong, but still an opportunity for Foss to move up a little bit. Dylan van Wilder, 107 down on 3rd. Primoz Roglic rode well in the time trial yesterday. Currently 9th overall, and Matthew Riccatella, well, the Decathlon CMA CGM squad have decided enough is enough, and they at least would like to make the tempo to see if they can create something today. I'm not sure if there's enough money on planet Earth to pay me to walk across that, but lots and lots of people like to do it. Heading back to Aigle. They'll begin the climbing once again with 11 kilometres remaining. They'll arrive into the town of Aigle with 15k to go. And then that'll be relatively benign gradient. And then 11k to go is when things start to grip. 10.8 I made it on looking on VeloViewer earlier on. Well, Vervaeke likes to ride at the back. He's happy enough to let others make the path for him. But it's just a little bit of an extra effort required just to make sure that he stays in the slipstream. That'll be why. It's a relatively narrow and far from untechnical descent, isn't it? Different surfaces here as well. These riders are certainly not holding back. They might have seen it a couple of times, but I hardly think they've memorized all of the various bends. Main peloton, at least, well, maybe not quite as quick, but it's definitely a sparky enough pace down a climb like this one. That's Jan Hirt, by the way. Czech rider. For the NSN team. Not represented in the break. What can they achieve today? Well, everyone that's survived in that lead group believes that they've got something to add to this bike race now. They're looking at the race. There may well be riders that can rejoin as well. It's a long descent. And as I say, they don't arrive down into Aigle until 15k to go, so they've got another 18 kilometers of mostly downhill riding, flashing through these villages. What can Lenny Martinez achieve today? He's pretty good, hasn't he? 22-year-old from Caen in France. Took the 20 points. Took the Gino Mader top prize. Swiss star who died in the Tour de Suisse a few years ago now. Of course, won the final stage of Tour de Suisse, a climbing stage in 2021. And we remember Gino Mader today. And Lenny Martinez claimed the top prize there, so he'll get the Gino Mader prize, the ride for Gino. Back racing after finishing third overall in Tour de Romandie. And so likes in Switzerland, a bit of a layoff, went to camp and back racing in Tour de Suisse this week. Difficult day, 39th on day one, sort of immediately put an end to his general classification hopes. So Lenny Martinez now goes in search of stage honours, trying to replicate the kind of performances we saw from him in Tour de Romandie earlier on the year. Third and sixth place finishes, third overall and winner of the youth classification, the 22-year-old Frenchman. Second overall in the Volta Catalunya. Fifth and a stage winner on the final day in Paris-Nice. It's been a really strong year for Lenny Martinez, and just kind of fix whatever little problems there were. Maybe just adapting to racing again after an altitude camp. It is a fine art, and the teams do have it down to a T these days. They know the particular physical characteristics of the riders and how they adapt to racing. Generally speaking, for the most part, you have the science down to an absolute nth. And they know how many days it takes a rider to adapt, what the adaptations are when they're in the camp, and then what the how long it takes them to get back to being able to sort of translate the gains and the benefits of those altitude camps into racing at lower altitudes, into racing in general, just pinning a number on the sort of extra intensity of racing. It's usually more intense, but some riders are capable of getting everything out in training camps, whether with teammates or solo or indeed behind motorcycles or whatever methods they use. They, generally speaking, there are some riders who just need to pin a number on, need it to be a real race in order to give a full examination of themselves, and by extension then develop themselves and get fitter and stronger for the major season's objectives. Other riders, well, they can just go through the process and tick every box required and make all of the efforts in training, the specific intervals, and that will develop their engine and get them exactly where they need to be. And it may well be that Lenny Martinez, just coming out of that camp, just needed a couple of days really to reset and get himself right. It's Callum Scottson on the front, a Scotsman, the Australian rider, just in front of the very much Belgian Tej Panot. They're trying to set something a little bit special up for Matthew Riccatello today. UAE's maybe grateful for this in actual fact. And great to see, I think, that at least another team is willing to take command and take control and not willing to accept a scenario, because if they want to go and win the stage today, they have to get back up front, and they cannot allow that breakaway group to start that final climb with 4, 5, 6 minutes. Even 3 minutes could be a dangerous amount to give a breakaway group, given the way that riders in breakaways don't necessarily drop away. Their performance doesn't drop away these days the way it would have done 5, 6, 10 years ago. That group of favourites now swelling in size ever so slightly, I suspect, on the descent and through the village. Well, the next village. Sweeping along. The peloton describing the line. More roadworks. They've got that tarmac down in the nick of time by the looks of things. Switzerland, yeah. Always perfectly manicured roads and wonderful civil engineering achievements in this part of the world. I mean, our transfer is usually around an hour and a half, 2 hours, not too long as you would expect, I suppose, in a country that's relatively small. But in a 2-hour car ride from the end of one stage to the end of the next one, you might go through half a dozen, 10 tunnels of varying different lengths up to several kilometers, and just the vast scale of civil engineering is just on a different scale, and not to be taken for granted. Inside 30 kilometers to go. These are our riders trying to put it up to the overall race leader, Tadej Pogacar, and the rest of the group of favourites behind. The main peloton, such as it is less big than it was at the outset of the affair, but still big enough. Little plateau section, and the road drops away from them once again. The speed rises. Martinez. And it's much, much more benign this side of the mountain, by the way. It's the descent is much more gradual and longer. So if it took them sort of 19k to get up the mountain, this particular section down towards Aigle again is, well, it's almost 29 kilometers. So it's kind of another 10k again, longer than the climb up. So they've had the most gradient advantage. From now on, it'll be either flat road or just an easier descent. The road will drop away from them again in about 2 kilometers time. And we've got an average sort of negative gradient of about 5%. So in a little while, as they grind away on the big gears, they will plunge away from them again, and they won't be able to keep up with them. Again, they'll get a little bit of relief to recover ahead of the final climb to the finish line. Bauke Mollema, as I've mentioned, one of 2 riders in this group at Nairo Quintana, who enjoyed success in this race in the past. Retiring at the end of the year. He was 3rd back in 2019. He was 2nd overall in 2013. Kamulama has enjoyed his trips to Switzerland over the years. "39 years of age, winner of Ville Lombardia in Italy in 2019. Probably the standout result of his career. That to go as well with another World Tour one-day major race victory. D'Anostia San Sebastian Classico back in 2016. Speaking of feats of civil engineering, imagine what this stage would have been like if that bridge wasn't there. It would have been a much longer and much more arduous day. The group of favourites isn't too big, is it? That'll thin out significantly when they hit the climb again. Just one climb left in Tour de Suisse. One climb left to make the difference among this group. Are they going to be able to shuffle the pack? Is anyone going to be able to unseat Tadej Pogacar from the top spot? That seems, you know, just beyond unlikely at this point. And more particularly, are any of these riders going to be able to contest for stage honours? Will the break stay away today? I continue to believe. Through La Sepe. We're about 1,000 meters above sea level here, by the way. And this is the bit that I mentioned where they can, I mean, I say properly relax, but of course it's tough on the neck, isn't it, when you're sort of crouched low over the bars like this, trying to maintain proper aero form, particularly for the front riders. They've got to get the proper aero form, and then the riders behind are just sort of riding along in the slipstream. It's easier to do. You need to share the work, even if you know, they're barely able to stay on top of the pedals here. You need to kind of sort of continue to scroll through. Because the speed, as you can see, I mean, it's quite high at 75 kilometers an hour, but it's not the 88, 90 kilometers an hour we saw a little bit closer to the top of the mountain. So easy enough to give up a few seconds here and there to a motivated bunch behind, and they definitely don't want to do that. The way things are going, they're going to start this final climb with not much more than a minute and a half of a lead. Surely won't be enough, or will it? All depends on what they've brought to the party today. Longish stage, longish mountain stage, but not 200 kilometers plus. And they're pretty much all, for the most part anyway, riders, indeed they are entirely riders from World Tour teams, used to these distances and more. Maximum lead for the break today, 2.5 minutes. That's dwindled away to a lot less at this point. 20 kilometers remaining. And of course we've got our final Lidl sprint of the week coming with 10, just a bit over 10 kilometers of the day remaining. Some points to be distributed towards the points competition. Little else of value. Not going to be, I think, contested amongst this group, that's for sure. Mauro Schmidt, had a great couple of years. giving a great account of himself a couple of days ago as well. Finished 8th in the time trial. Schmidt's gone rating, recovered well. Pushed on again, 9th in the GP Jippingen last weekend. Coming off the back of a Classics campaign that well, produced a 2nd place finish in Flesh Wallone, of course. He does get up the shorter ramps with impressive haste. 2nd in the next Classic, 6th in Amstel Gold. And of course, beautiful stage successes in Settimana Internazionale Coppe Bartoli, or the Coppe Bartoli Week, give it its English term. Stage victory, 3 2nd places, won the points classification there, and also took a stage victory in Tour of Oman to go with a win in Muscat Classics. A great consistency displayed this year by Mauro Schmidt. Can he climb to glory, deliver a stage success, a first stage victory of the week at the final time of asking for the host nation? Can he take what would be a pretty much, well, I won't say career defining, but it'd be a huge win for him to win at World Tour level on home soil. And Mauro Schmidt has pushed on to try and achieve that. Will he get his reward? Well, the way the Decathlon CMA CGM team have set up for Matthew Riccatello today, I don't think they have as much chance as they might have hoped. Last time we heard that, by the way, Paul Double was at 50 seconds, so it looks like he's more likely to be reclaimed by the peloton than to rejoin the front of the race. Having said that, he'll probably be back in 2 seconds, but that was a little while ago. Baggioli, we understand, showing it about 20-odd seconds behind the peloton as well. So every chance that Andrea Baggioli could rejoin that main peloton in time for the final climb. The signal's not great from him, getting dropped on that long climb. But remember, the final climb is not as long, albeit it is coming at the end of a long, long, tough day of climbing action. It is their 5th day as well. It's a shorter stage race than it has been in recent years, but still there'll be an element of fatigue starting to creep in for many riders in this main peloton after 5 really hot days of racing as well. That'll add to the fatigue levels. Recovery definitely tends to be compromised a little bit in these kind of conditions. Fifth and final stage of this 89th edition of Tour de Suisse. It's been a bit of a cracker, hasn't it? I mean, barely a dull moment. Day one, of course. Stunning first appearance in the Tour de Suisse for Tadej Pogačar. And just cruised to glory, didn't he? It took off with, what was it, about 75 kilometers remaining, 74, something like that, and then disappeared off up the road. Eventually Richard Carapaz took his leave of the rest. They traded blows all the way to the finish line, but Tadej Pogačar still had 2 minutes and 14-second advantage over the Colombian rider Richard Carapaz, with local man Andrea Baggioli taking the 3rd place on his rare racing visit to Sondrio. We're back across the border into Switzerland, albeit in Ticino, the Italian southern part of Switzerland, for day 2, and it was an impressive victory delivered. They weren't for giving up, were they? The breakaway riders just about managing to hang on. It was quite a large break for about 14 riders, and 5 riders managed to fend off the chasers from behind. Romain Gregoire, for the 2nd year in succession, taking a stage victory. He's wearing that points jersey on behalf of Tadej Pogačar today. Great win for Gregoire ahead of Marcel Kamprubi, Bart Lemon, Filippo Zanna, Finlay Pickering, and Matthias Vacek just failing to overhaul. He went counter-attacking with Tadej Pogačar. That was day 2 in Locarno, and then on the 3rd day it looked as if it was potentially a stage for the sprinters. but also a lot of climbing in the first half of the stage, and that was a tempter for the breakaway riders. A relatively large break assembling out front. Final two remaining riders from the break surviving for a sort of a long-range effort to fend off the big peloton, and that they managed to achieve. Remarkable stuff. Jonathan Narvaez beating his breakaway companion. Oops. Spent a moment there for Bauke Mollema. Kind of all over the bike at the best of times. He has that sort of all-action style. No doubt he was way more comfortable through that left-hander than I would ever have realised. Yeah, day three with the win for Jonathan Narvaez ahead of Xander Maurice. Magnus Corton leading in the peloton behind. Millimetres behind all the indeed top 66 riders given the same time. Frustratingly for the sprinters left in the race at that point, weren't able to contend. And then day four yesterday, penultimate stage. What an amazing stage it was, with that time trial decided by a mere 0.04 of a second. Saw us yesterday. We were talking about 0.3. In actual fact, 0.04 of a second. That was the gap between them. Pogacar getting the win. Mathieu van der Poel getting a 500 Swiss franc fine. Well, apparently 200 million years ago, Switzerland was actually covered by the sea. It's one of those landlocked nations that is famous for having a navy, isn't it, of course? But yeah, when the sea receded, lo and behold, you end up with a salt manufacturing facility. Something like that, at any rate. The 16th century saline springs were discovered in the Salins-sur-Olon. It's been part of the local industry since then, since that 16th century development. Costu down the back of the group of favourites. Has played a major role actually in propelling Romain Grégoire to victory on day two. And to have a look at the castle in Aigle once again. The final time of asking today. In the canton of Vaud. This is the seat of the district of Aigle. Gap out, showing now at closer to 2 minutes, so kind of yo-yoed a bit, sort of, yeah, and that's basically because of the fact that it sort of condenses, it contracts and expands based on which group is on the descent, which group is on the climb still, and judgments have to be made actually in the sort of analysis of exactly what the gap is, and we'll get a better sense as we are on that plateau road and now heading for the climb. Well, they'll go and grab as much as they can. Not sure when the feeding finishes. Normally it's 10k to go, but they usually give them a little bit of a reprieve, and they extend it further up. We do have a sprint coming up in a kilometre. Again, not expecting that to be too hotly contested. Andy Martinez getting the extra sustenance and a little bit of support. A little bit of encouragement and advice from the Bahrain team car. He's going favourite here amongst this group to prevail. Fine climber, not the only one in the group, but certainly the rider who has been performing with the greatest distinction amongst this particular breakaway group of 8 riders today, remaining 8. Finn Fisher-Black knows, and Gafuri as well. I know they need to continue to ride all the way into the climb. Oops, or maybe they need to attack early. This is Lemon, I think, trying to just scoop some bonus points. I think more just trying to get a head start on the hill. Lenny Martinez doesn't want to be found chasing anyone. And usefully for Finn Fisher-Black, it's in actual fact Quintana who's gone with Lenny Martinez, just going to cruise through the line here. No bonus seconds here, by the way. This is just points towards the points classification. So this is Bart Lemon, finished third on day 2. Part of that big breakaway group that prevailed with Romain Gregoire. So these riders have decided enough is enough in terms of giving up and leaking time to that group behind. Martinez, little shake of the head. Honestly, haven't necessarily got the legs. Have to make a big effort just to close you down. Lemon through the final Lidl sprint of the week. Dutchman starting the day, 18th overall, 8:05 down. He's one of those slightly threatening riders to several riders in the top 10 in pursuit. Riders rolling through, no total balance among the leaders in that there are no rider has a teammate, so nobody's sitting on here. Any reason to sit on at any rate. And things start to grip. And grip properly at this point. The road rises. And the road rises up to meet you, they say. It's confirmation, Lemon Quintana and Lenny Martinez. None all that interested in this in the battle for the points classification. Meanwhile, the group of favourites starting to assemble. There'll be a few riders making their final contribution here. It's often the case that we have a sort of frenetic arrival into that final climb. We're not necessarily getting that here. You will see riders who, having battled all day to be there, will make their final contribution. But there aren't too many of the big sprinters. It's not that guy. It's not a hockey stick shaped parkour today. They've been climbing all day. A lot of riders are very weary. Tim Whelan's thrilled to be here, I think. He'll give what he can to the process. 4 riders still available for Tadej Pogacar. They've got command against. The decathlons have gone back in the box for now at any rate. And they have at least created a scenario and kept the pace up. And kept that group up front on a relatively tight leash today. Shatner and Tadej Pogacar thereabouts. Now Benoit wants to try and set something up. So they've gone back, had a little bit of a conflab. He's looking around to see where Matthew Riccatello is. Are they going to launch from distance here onto the climb proper? And Vavaka is, I can only presume, going backwards, or is he from this? Indeed, he's going north from the. Well, these are the riders that we're trying to close down, and Vavaka is on absolutely flying form. I'm probably a little bit frustrated that the Bauke Mollema group is not able to, Finn Fisher-Black, etc., not quite able to stay attached. Mara Schmidt as well. So Vavaka making a full investment, and you got to love this. The mountains classification winner is going to fire himself at this mountain and see if he can get back up to Lenny Martinez, Nairo Quintana, and Bart Lemon. Gregoire suffering. Made his way back in, was at least brought to the foot of the final climb. More good work done. Okay, just lost pictures here in the commentary position. I hope to have that back to you very shortly. So Louis Vervaeke is coming back in. Apologies, we just lost images here in the truck, so unfortunately we wasn't actually able to see what's been happening, but picking up on the live updates. And yeah, I mean, you guys have been able to see a little bit more than I have. And down to the final 5 kilometers, I can tell you we've still got some power outages here in this truck. Maybe I've spoken a little bit too soon, but currently you're seeing more than I'm seeing. But suffice it to say, things getting very interesting indeed in this 5th and final stage of Tour de Suisse. I'll be back on very shortly. Fifth and final stage of Tour de Suisse, and Tadej Pogacar, metronomic progress as he overhauls another one of the riders from the breakaway. Bart Lemon has a little look across from one yellow jersey to another. Won't be able to sustain this kind of pace for any length of time because Tadej Pogacar, it's relentless. It's a bigger gear, it's a bigger climb, isn't it, for him? And Lenny Martinez, his shoulders rocking, is within 4.5 kilometers of the finish line, but with an advantage of just 45 seconds. Can the French climber manage to fend off the Slovenian star? He's got, basically, it's quite simple, isn't it, 4 seconds per kilometer. That's about well, it's a bit more than that, 10 seconds per kilometer. That's what he can afford to give up. Sounds like actually that's a healthy advantage, and that potentially he could take the win, but I think he needs a miracle here, because Tadej Pogacar's progress is absolutely relentless, and he's every sort of 100 meters seems to be gaining about 3 or 4 seconds. It's typical. It's absolutely wonderful. It's amazing stuff here from Tadej Pogacar as he goes in search of a 3rd stage victory this week, a 4th for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad, and there's little anyone can seemingly do about it, not least Lenny Martinez. This climb stretched out in front of these riders. Well, they've seen this piece of tarmac already 3 times today. Now it's a much more urgent, much more aggressive pace being set by the overall race leader in search of a first victory in Tour de Suisse. Lenny Martinez, in turn, desperate to try and hang on as best he can. And somewhere down there is, by the looks of things, Nairo Quintana, desperate to try and hang on. Quintana, 4th on the road. And we've got 1 or 2 technical issues trying to keep up with the leaders as well. I can tell you it's been really hard and technically demanding for everyone involved in the Tour de Suisse over the last few days. Delighted that we've been able to maintain these pictures right throughout the conclusion of this wonderful stage. And Martinez still with a half a minute in hand, 3.5 kilometers remaining. The math says that the amount that he's trading to Tadej Pogacar, he could potentially still just about hang on. Have we got another cliffhanger in prospect? Well, stage 1 was a dominant performance by Tadej Pogacar. It's dominant here on stage 5 in terms of his battle against the GC favourites. He's going to extend his advantage and win the Tour de Suisse potentially by a near record advantage. Certainly in recent years it's going to be a huge lead. But in the meantime, is he going to be able to take another stage victory, his 2nd in succession, his third of the 5 days. Tadej Pogačar is rampant. Louis Vervac is on for a really strong top 10 finish here today. He's still climbing with some, or is he? Has he been overhauled by the rest of the favourites group? I'm just picking up on this information myself, but suffice it to say, Lenny Martinez is a man, well, he's almost like a frightened animal at this point, trying to fend off the beast that is Tadej Pogačar. Might be grateful for that little bit of a cooling balm from the hose at the side of the road, and everything counts. Well, no time gap available, but still not quite in evidence. Down inside 3 kilometres for Lenny Martinez up front. And Pogačar hasn't yet caught sight of his rival. Matt Lemon, I think, will be also grateful. Good result in prospect for the man riding third on the road. And Martinez needs the ride of his life here. Down to 26 seconds. The gains are just absolutely huge chunks. You kind of expect it. He's been riding in the wheels all day, but he just has another gear. And indeed, look at the fact that he's able to ride on the big ring on a climb of this particular caliber and nature. This final climb of the week. "11 kilometers in total. And I kind of measured it out at around about 7.5% average on VeloViewer. Down to 2.5 to go, and it does ease ever so slightly, which will probably help him a little bit with 1.2 to go. But he can see him at this point. He can see the vehicle supporting Lenny Martinez, and those cars are huddled to the right-hand side because they know what's happening. Here comes the yellow jersey. And he's not giving up on this. His voracious appetite for victories continues unabated. And the remaining riders from the early break are scattered all over this mountain at this point. Mauro Schmidt sees some big names start to flex their muscles. Some good riding going in here from Tobias Foss. Vacek, also an important scrap there. So we're going to try and keep tabs on that as best we can. Suffice it to say, you need eyes all over the place on this hill. There's so much going on. The battle for stage honours, though, that is very much joined. And still 2.3 to go, and his advantage dwindling fast. But Lenny Martinez is a world-class climber. He's a rider that has won significant victories already this year. He's a rider who's coming down off an altitude training camp and has finally found his legs after a couple of tough days. And Lenny Martinez has had a long, tough day in the breakaway, but he's got more resistance than most, you feel, to a man who is absolutely rampant in the world of cycling. Well, Martinez is growing ever larger in the view of not just Tadej Pogačar, but ourselves behind the overall race leader. A stage win in Paris-Nice. A huge moment for Lenny Martinez already this year. Can he add to it with a victory, a first victory in Tour de Suisse? Or will it be, again, success in the final stage to confirm his imperious standing at the head of world cycling for the overall race leader, Tadej Pogačar? Lead down to 15 seconds and 1,800 metres. The maths is going against him. And Lenny Martinez can't get to that slightly flatter section quick enough at this point. Pogačar's progress undimmed. For Lenny Martinez in the break all day, it's starting to become a little bit more demanding. And even more demanding. He's wearying, he's weak, he's suffering. Does he just take a moment and maybe, I mean, it's very difficult to think about doing that, but do you just kind of relax and just hope that you could possibly stay with Pogačar and then threaten for a sprint? Well, he's not going to do that. He's not going to be told to do it. He's just going to lay it all out the tarmac and just hope against hope that he can maybe stay with Pogačar when he catches him, because he's going to catch him. Still 1,600 metres remaining. Pogačar's catch is inevitable at this point. And we just got sight of the group behind as well. It might be nice to catch up with that and see what's happening as Richard Carapaz fights to maintain his position in second place overall. Scant 5-second lead starting the final day. Pogacar now just a matter of 50 meters, 75 meters behind Lenny Martinez. 1,400 meters remaining. Pogacar out of the saddle, maybe thinking about picking his moment. He probably knows at this point, and is it inevitable? Gradient eases slightly in this at this particular juncture, and then starts to become a little bit more demanding. 1,300 to go. Average gradient of the final 1.3 kilometers is a cruel 6.7%, so it's anything but easy. And there are little sections along that when it becomes just slightly easier. But here comes Tadej Pogacar. The catch is going to happen. 2:26 back to the Vacek group. What about that? This final climb has been an opportunity once again for Tadej Pogacar to display his dominance, and he's just cruised away from the other group of GC favourites. He's jogged up to the all of the remaining breakaway riders, and now just one man continues to resist. He's got under the kite. Even that's an achievement for Lenny Martinez, who's found some good form ahead of the Tour de France. But he looks around and, oh, what does that signal for him? It's cruel, cruel, because it is the best man of his generation, the world champion, the overall race leader, and Tadej Pogacar is not going to be long about going past. He's going to deliver the rapier thrust here, straight past, almost touches Lenny Martinez, who was expecting him to come to the right. Martinez has no answer. Up and over this little 10% ramp here. It'll ease ever so slightly, and he didn't want to allow Martinez even a moment to recover, to think about it. Pogacar on to glory today, unless something extraordinary happens. It's going to be an imperious conclusion. And Pogacar, I think, wants to ease ever so slightly, but Martinez is about trying to rejoin. Well, that would be unlikely and remarkable in equal measure. Martinez continues to fight. His body language says that he's a weary man, but he continues to believe. Tadej Pogacar is going to be made to work for this all the way to the line, as indeed he has right from the bottom of this climb. Disappearing up the road. His first visit to Tour de Suisse is in 2026, and it has been a commanding one. 4 victories from 5 for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad. 3 of them delivered by the overall race winner, about to be announced at the finish line. He arrives into the finishing barriers just a few hundred meters from the line. And the 27-year-old adds another significant race victory to his palmares. He's all about the big moments in his career and adding significant race victories. He's finally arrived at Tour de Suisse, and he's shown just what we've all been missing. Low 5 cyclocross style all the way to the line for Tadej Pogacar, who takes stage 5, makes it 3 wins for the week, and takes the overall victory in Tour de Suisse. Brave resistance for Lenny Martinez, who crosses the line just 7 seconds behind a spent force, but a wonderful resistance for the French rider. But it's Tadej Pogacar that takes the glory once again, and the crowd masses around the Slovenian star. He'll take a moment to gather his thoughts. Luke Maguire up to deliver the sustenance and the congratulations as the photographers get those key images. But Pogacar looks like he could have gone again for another 5-7 kilometers. Bart Lemon up for 3rd on the day. Super ride from the Dutchman. We'll watch with interest to see what's happening in that group of favourites behind, because as I mentioned much today, of course, there's not much between a lot of the riders, so plenty of opportunity in the final couple of kilometres for a little bit of reshuffling of that top 10. Bart Lemon will surely improve his situation on general classification, having started the day in 18th position. Long range effort in the breakaway. 3rd on day 2. It's going to be third again on day 5 for Bart Lemon of the Team Visma Lisa bike squad. And the relief at the end of 150 kilometers as we start to see a little bit of excitement here. And, well, finally we're seeing a little bit of resistance here from, and Riccatello wants to try and come up with something at the death here as they all roll across the line in various states of disrepair. It's a good result here for Richard Carapaz. Vacek has been pushed behind, so second I think is going to be confirmed for Richard Carapaz. That to be confirmed. There's Vacek just to the back of this group. Carapaz has hung on to his second place overall. And already the autograph work being done. Handshakes all round as Primož Roglič makes his way through. Jona Wieder getting up for 4th, by the way, ahead of Matthew Riccatello, Enric Mas, Carapaz in 7th place. Tobias Foss with 8th on the day. Potential for him to move up. Primož Roglič is going to hang on to his top 10 position with this one. Slovenian veteran with the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad across the line. Just outside the top 10. Vacek was 12th over the line, by the way, 2:16 down with Quintana 2:12. And listen to the crowd. Mauro Schmidt from the early break makes it to the line in, I believe, 15th place. What about Louis Vervaeke today? Another long-range effort. Green jersey is to have and hold. Well, let's bring them home, bang the boards, and welcome a lot of weary riders to the finish line at the end of 5 tough days of racing. 150.7 kilometers in their legs. Hopefully very shortly we'll catch up with the overall race winner and your stage winner on the day. Another important victory delivered by Tadej Pogačar. In general classification is 13 victories for the season already for Tadej Pogačar. He's only done about 16 or 17 days of racing. It's just on a different scale. "16 days of racing, 13 wins, including overall classifications." It just doesn't happen in big-time bike racing, and riders coming across the line in various states of weariness and disrepair. It's been a long, tough day out for all of them, not least Finlay Pickering. He faded a little bit in the last couple of days, but it's enhanced his reputation. Felix Grossschartner did great work for Tadej Pogačar. And be great support for all the riders. Relieved to have completed their demanding day after adventures in the breakaway for the likes of Finn Fisher-Black. Not the day Mark Hirschi would have liked, but he's home to the line. He'll reset, go again, and look towards races to come. Well, that was the moment when he delivered the coup de grace. It was almost a little bit of a collision between them, because I think Lenny Martinez was expecting him to come through on the right-hand side. It was perfectly timed effort from Tadej Pogacar. I think he realised, and that was the difficulty for Lenny Martinez. Had he been saving up anything, that was the tough one, because that was probably the gradient almost at its steepest on the entire mountain. Had he had that slightly more level surface, he might have been able to latch on to Pogacar, but still it would have been hard to imagine any other conclusion. He's on a different scale. He did that final mountain faster than anyone else. Caught everyone in front of him. He delivered for his team. He delivered too for Erskine, recovering from that fractured jaw and that painful crash on day 3. On day 2, in actual fact, I think, yeah, for Tadej Pogacar, he'll be, I suspect, dedicating this one to his partner. Well, it's painful, isn't it? So near and yet so far. What do you have to do? Commiserate, I suppose. Join a WhatsApp group with the most recent members. Mathieu van der Poel, Richard Carapaz, and now Lenny Martinez. Tadej Pogacar gets the win on the 5th and final day by 7 seconds from the early break man Lenny Martinez. Part 11 survives for 3rd. Wiedar, fine performance from the Belgian rider with the Lotto squad in 4th, ahead of Matthew Riccatello. Loves this climb in 5th again. Mas Carapaz, Vos, Van Wilder and Nairo Quintana, another man from the break, getting a top 10 on the day. Loads of great entertainment in that one. Another cliffhanger finish. I tell you what, this year's edition of Tour de Suisse hasn't lacked for drama, hasn't lacked for entertainment, despite the fact that we have had a dominant performance by Tadej Pogacar. Look at the pair results, and you think it was boring. It was anything but. Time for them to prepare for the victory ceremony. We've got final classification jerseys to award. We've got the stage honours, of course, to Tadej Pogacar, and of course the Ride for Gino Mountains Prize at the top of the final 4 category ascent of the climb today. And then, of course, we have the Tissot watch. There's plenty of prizes still to be presented. Some riders heading for the bus and heading for flights to come, heading off to battles to come in France and beyond. National championships, of course, for many riders taking place all over Europe next week. Tadej Pogacar confirmed as the overall winner of this race by fully 6 minutes and 32 seconds. And Richard Carapaz defending that 2nd place in the final stage from Mateusz Wachek. Tobias Foss vaulting up from 6th to 4th. There's a great performance from the Norwegian. Van Wilder as well in 5th.
3, 2, 1, départ, bonne course, messieurs.
Well, they set out today with just over 150 kilometers in front of them. And 4 tough climbs of Col de la Croix in various iterations. It's horde category status as a near 20-kilometer climb. Louis Vervaeke infiltrating the early break of the day. Again, fabulous performance from the Belgian. He's on flying form. ultimately would claim 2 of the 3 classified mountains, and with it the points that would secure him the King of the Mountains classification. Did he get second at there? No, I think he was third there, and possibly fourth. At any rate, what's to be collected? Will it be from Mara Schmidt? Lenny Martinez first over the final classified climb of the week. Will go to the podium to collect the Ride for Gina special award. And this was the moment that Tadej Pogačar took his leave of the rest. Richard Carapaz fancied resisting this one. And why wouldn't he after his stage 2 performance, but had to bow to the inevitable. It's still 8 kilometers of the day remaining. And so too did Lenny Martinez. Pushed as hard as he could to prevent Pogačar from getting on terms. Had he gone over that little ramp there, it would have been quite interesting to see whether Martinez could have stayed with Pogačar. But he's got a useful sprint, hasn't he, from a small group, has Pogačar, so, and he just had so much more in hand, didn't he? By the time he made it to the finish line, he was recovering and signing autographs within seconds. Martinez will take much from the day. And Pogačar has certainly taken much from the week. 3 stages in the overall. He's off to the podium. Hard enough to climb up these hills without doing it on a unicycle. Impressive skills. Well, let's hear from your overall race winner. 3 stage victories across the week. The overall victory by an absolutely massive margin of over 6.5 minutes. Tadej Pogačar's heading off to France.
Tadej, again, what an outstanding performance today. You just won the Queen Stage and the GC of the Tour de Suisse. How does that feel?
No, it was a super hard day. Yeah, really, the parcours was really tough. And with the team, we did super job. And then it was getting harder and harder every lap that we do, and in the end it was all-out effort. And also Decathlon was trying to do big pace in the last climb, so I just tried to continue and keep with this pace to the top. And it was brutal day today, and it was also super hot, so I'm happy to take the win and GC, and that I can go now home to Urška.
And how did you feel on the final climb?
Yeah, it was good. Was really, this is how in the tour will look like probably with this heat and so many elevation before. So it was really good to test the legs, the heart, the lungs, everything on the final climb. And I went all out, and it was really really hard, but good, actually nice climb.
And speaking of the tour, it starts in 2 weeks, so it looks like you're in a good race level already.
Yeah, now it's just reset a little bit at home, do a bit of specific training, and we're off to Barcelona very fast actually.
And best wishes to Urška, and congrats again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was a nice little tribute paid to Urška there. He's dying to get home as soon as he can. And yeah, this was day one. In World Champion stripes last time we saw them. From then on, in yellow, his stage 3 success on the time trial bike. Also, I think will give him great heart. And the final glory at the expense of Lenny Martinez. There was an inevitability about it from the time that he left Richard Carapaz and struck out alone, man against mountain. Lenny Martinez, a bit part player in that. So we're hearing the ceremonies will be within the next 5 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to soak up the atmosphere, soak up a little bit of some rays as well, soak up some heat.
C'est vrai que ça me semblait très rapide entre le moment où il pédale, il transpire et il parle, et le moment où il vient tout beau, tout frais sur le podium avec son maillot. Quand même un petit peu rapide. Donc quoi qu'il en soit, vous avez compris que Tadej Pogačar a écrasé ce Tour de Suisse.
Joy on bounds. Great to see the smile. It means something. It means a lot. The wins come so frequently. So much more frequently than any other bike rider, even a sprinter. But still, they mean something to him. Couldn't achieve them if he didn't have the hunger for them. There's an ethic, a work ethic around it, isn't there? The responsibility to deliver for the team after all of their investment. So it's kind of one element feeds the other, doesn't it? As he produces the wins, the team then becomes more motivated, more to in order to encourage and support and create the opportunities. And then, of course, then that adds to the sense of responsibility that Pogačar himself will feel. This has been, I think, a very successful visit to Switzerland for the Slovenian hero, and he will no doubt take great memories out of this one. And it's been very useful preparation, as he said, ahead of the Tour de France, which was, of course, for a rider of his caliber, the major objective. Not the only objective, though, because, as I say, he does like to add different race victories to his palmares, and there aren't many left at this point that he really, really wants. This was on the list as one of the most important World Tour stage races of them all, one of the oldest and longest running. There aren't too many more races that will really tick the box for him. I suspect Roubaix might be top of that list. He's had a great reception, hasn't he? Fans every day have really loved cheering his name. contrast in emotions and facial characteristics on that particular images there. The slow-mos of Pogacar and Lenny Martinez tell different stories. Well, I think our riders are almost ready, and indeed the dignitaries and everyone involved with the delivery of this race, ready to present some jerseys, some bouquets, some bubbly. And there he is, back in world champion stripes and ready to collect the spoils of a successful visit to Switzerland, and they'd like him to come back after that performance. For the third time this week, your stage winner, Tadej Pogacar. His 12th victory of the season, in doing so, delivering his 13th, the overall victory. He's got some clothes. I think it's hoodie weather just yet, but you never know. Weather can change quickly. Pogacar confirmed 7 seconds in hand at the end. Could have been more. Martinez, return to form for him. Bart Lemon too will feel pretty good. About 2 third places this week. Well, at the end of a tough week of racing, began with Richard Carapaz in second place and Tadej Pogacar at the head of affairs. That's prevailed all the way through to the end, but not after a bit of a scrap for those final podium positions. Matthias Vacek moving up to third following yesterday's time trial, and the Czech champion has certainly enhanced his reputation this week. He's in a good place. Looked really good on the time trial bike, climbed well. Didn't quite have the measure of Richard Carapaz on the big long climb today. So the Ecuadorian always manages a winning smile on the podium. He'll be happy, I think, with his form. And absolutely nothing they could do about this man. 6.5 minutes at the end of the affair. 6 minutes and 32 seconds to be precise between Tadej Pogacar and Richard Carapaz. In the end, Carapaz managed to extend his lead from 5 seconds to 21 seconds over Vacek. Olivier Sen, who's had a busy week. Haven't seen too much of Ollie because he's been running 2 different bike races. He presents the famous Tour de Suisse trophy to Tadej Pogacar for the first time. First of many, perhaps. It's a high-caliber finishing podium. It's got the best rider of his generation and arguably of all time. What do we do with this trophy? It's a big trophy, isn't it? It's an egg timer, I guess.
Voilà. Et les supporters des différents coureurs sont présents et maintenant le vainqueur.
Boiled eggs for breakfast today. Would have been ideal. Pogacar's name now etched on a roll of honour, going back 89 years, or 89 events, back to 1933. Further confirmation of the time gaps, with Richard Carapaz 6.5 minutes behind and just a smidgen ahead of 21 seconds ahead of Matthias Vacek. Tobias Foss up to 4th on the day. Great final couple of days for the Norwegian. Van Wilder as well up to 5th. McNulty, good resistance given that he wasn't in GC honours. Roglic as well moving up, so plenty of movement in that top 10 to savour in sense. The winner of the points classification, no surprise, he's won 3 of the 5 stages. And she never in doubt. And there's a blue jersey that he's worn, or at least he's collected every day, and he's never worn. Not in a racing situation, that is. Oh.
Ah ouais, il offre des friandises. Ah bah vous savez qu'ils sont contrôlés au niveau du régime alimentaire. Les
Well,
champions
there's a job
cyclistes.
for you in the publicity cavalcade of the Tour de France, or even a Tour de Suisse if you fancy it, Tadej. But he's pretty good at distributing the goodies.
Ah, il fait le show même sur le podium. Tadej Pogačar, mesdames, messieurs.
If the old cycling doesn't work out, then yeah, he'd be a model in one of those one of those publicity vehicles ahead of the Tour. At the end, oh, huge, 22 points, massive win over 5 stages with only 15 points on offer at the finish line. Part Lemon vaults up to second.
Et on continue avec le classement du meilleur jeune.
No doubt about the
coureur de
best young
25 ans,
rider either.
patronné par Len.ch et son maillot blanc. Mesdames, messieurs, du team Lidl Trek, Matthias Vacek.
Vacek with almost 2 minutes in hand over Matthew Riccatello at the end of the week. Huge gulfs in GC, I have to say, in just 5 stages. Surprised to see that big a gap in the young rider competition. Riccatello, though, had a good final day. He'll be thrilled with that one. Matthias Vacek, though, imperious in that particular category. 24-year-old Czech rider. And yeah, 155 over Matthew Riccatello. The final day of asking. Finlay Pickering had a good start to the week. Slipped away a little bit, but the young Briton has taken plenty from it. Louis Vervac went in the break twice this week. 2 significant interventions from the Belgian rider, Soudal Quickstep. I think we'll be proud of how he's behaved, or at least how he's ridden, how he's been able to perform. And in the end, had a commanding advantage. Wore that jersey on behalf of Tadej Pogačar one day. After that, he made it his own, and he has it to have and hold and bring back to Belgium. Well, spoiler alert, if you're planning to watch the women's race, look away now, because I'm going to reveal the winner of the women's race. Going to join Tadej Pogačar on the winner's podium. Well, the 2 races have run in tandem all week. Great logistical exercise performed by the organisers here. And Marlon Reusser, the winner of the women's Tour de Suisse, her 3rd win actually in that home national tour for the Swiss superstar. She mirroring the performance of Tadej Pogačar in taking stage and final overall honours on the final day. Yeah, 1 or 2 more presentations to be made, I do believe, on the podium. A few bits of bubbly to be distributed, and a watch or 2. Who's rider of the day going to be? Well, Tadej Pogačar's won it a couple of times this week. They're going to give it to the stage winner. They've given it to the local man, Mauro Schmidt. Great hit out in the break, in fairness, today. I think Lenny Martinez might feel a bit miffed about that one. He will get the Ride for Gino award, though. But Mauro Schmidt presented to the crowd here in his Swiss National Champions jersey, which he's wearing for the final time, I presume, because the National's coming up next week. He'll have an opportunity to defend that. And he does get a visit to the podium here on the final day. Some zero alcohol bubbly to be savoured in the bus on the way back from this one, and Schmidt as well has given a great account of himself on this final day. Louis Vervac has just about managed to scoop the watch as well. I think he was aware of it too, having won it a couple of days ago. I think he was aware that if he managed to be there or thereabouts in both of the Tissot kilometres, there's every chance. A nice little timepiece to bring home as a souvenir or something to add to the collection, or maybe even wear. Riders like their watches, don't they? Louis Vervaeke, winner of the King of the Mountains competition, and today's Tissot Sprint, of course, taking place on a mountain. And thanks very much to the timing crew here at the finish line, actually representing this particular Swiss manufacturer, who have been very accommodating and helpful and supporting our work through the week. Well, the final classified climb of the week, Côte de la Croix, steepest and longest climb, and a very appropriate setting for the award of the Ride for Gino award. Well, we will remember Gino. Lost his life in Tour de Suisse a few years ago, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, he took a huge win in the final stage of Tour de Suisse back in 2021. It's Lenny Martinez that wins the Ride for Gino prize.
Prix commémoratif Ride for Gino, à jamais dans nos cœurs et dans nos mémoires. Lenny Martinez, Team 9 victorieuse. Bravo Lenny.
Yeah, always remembered in this race, Ride for Gino. Gino Mader, nice man who was very well respected. And, what a tragic day that is. That was well remembered. Now, best team. Logically, that should go to the team of the overall race winner, but it, of course it ordinarily doesn't, or very often doesn't, but this time around it absolutely does. And that's the level and the scale of the dominance. Managed to put a couple of riders into the top 10. And all 7 of these riders have played a huge role. Managed to get 4 through to this particular ceremony, but Tadej Pogačar joined by Tim Wellens and Roman Novak and Jonathan Narvaez. Niels Pollitt has played his role. Felix Großschartner has played a huge role as well this week, and all 7 of those riders. Did I mention Wellens? Yeah, all 7 of them have been immense, it has to be said, dominant. Of course, the team award is an accumulation of the results of your top 3 riders, so add them up and it goes to UAE, but any which way you manage to measure the achievement of a team, I think that one would be going to UAE. Well, it all ends with glory for Tadej Pogačar. It all ends for us as well here. Thanks very much for joining us during the week's fabulous edition of Tour de Suisse. My name is Declan Quigley. On behalf of all of the crew and everyone involved in bringing you this broadcast, I'd like to say thanks for watching during the week. We'll see you at the road. Bye for now.